Let's scan through those 5 circles to bring some mind to riding horse. So this circle of the legs, what we call ward up in the legs. Knees are out, which is driving me into the outside edges of the feet. Really relaxed in here. So these tendons here that prevent you from opening your legs wide into a splits, they're the things we need to relax most of all. We want to stretch here so that we can open the legs in order to get down. My sacroiliacs are relaxed. And then the other circle in the legs, which is this one. So this sense that you're sitting on a ball and your legs are just falling down the front of the ball. So I have a circle here and I have a circle here. It's actually this way. So I'm sort of sitting down back onto this ball and there's a sense of it rolling like this. And then the same thing in the arms. So the ward off here. So the same idea, the elbows, like the knees, are going out. That would pull me onto the outside edges of the feet. So that, the equivalent in the arms, is the feeling of the hands coming towards each other. My elbows are pulling apart. My fingers are trying to move towards each other. This softness here, the openness, which is the equivalent to the openness here. The shoulder blades really relaxing away from the spine, which is the equivalent to the sacrum and the hips. And then the other circle of the arms, which is this one, like you're holding a big ball. So there's a circle here. And it's a useful image, feeling that you're holding something that's a little bit heavy, like a sack of cement or a sack of potatoes. It would require you to lean back a little bit so that the weight doesn't pull you forwards, and that will help drive you down the spine. And then the 5th curve, which is the circle of the whole body, really, the spine. Feeling that my spine is the back of a circle. So the lordosis of the lumbar spine and the lordosis of the cervical spine are endeavoring to stretch out and almost reverse. So it requires me to pull my chin in and push my head back to stretch the cervical spine, stretch the neck, and heavy sacrum. I don't want to stretch out my lower back by pulling my bum under with muscles. I want it to happen because something is relaxed. So I feel heavy sacrum stretching my lower back down. And then just feel the perfection of this posture. It's splitting the mind into 2 compartments. The part that contains everything I know, which we call the ego, and the part that contains everything else. So obviously the bit I know is a tiny, tiny portion of everything there is. So I want to get used to being able to feel the awareness that comes onto the things I know, into the world that I have understood in my mind. And another part of my awareness that's always dipping in and out of the unknown or the unknowable or the unconscious. And now let's breathe. Feel the action in the spine and let the head just go with it. The head is the top of the spine. It's the part of the spine that's moving the most. And then start turning with it. Feel the feet trying to do the same as what your arms are doing, your hands are doing. So my hands are moving apart, my feet are trying to push apart, and that's twisting me. My hands are coming together, my feet are trying to come together, and that will bring me back to the front, and they push apart. Feel the difference between the active leg and the passive leg. The active leg is always the back leg. This is actively pushing me to push this hip round. This leg is also sort of pushing, but really just to keep me where I am rather than push me this way. And then this leg pulls to pull me back to the front. And then as soon as it becomes a front foot, so once I pass the front, it's now the passive leg, and this is the active leg. My back leg really straightens, and then it starts to bend, and that pulls me back. And now just back to riding horse. So what we've just done is push with this leg in order to turn myself around here. So the pushing of this leg pushes this hip round, but it actually pushes the whole body in this direction, making sure that this is a front foot. Pushing with the leg turns me to the left. But equally, I could push with this leg and make it turn me to the right. in which case it's driving me into a back foot. So remember the first lesson all those years ago, and that first warm-up exercise, we're turning the waist like this. And it seemed to me anyway, really counterintuitive to turn and come into this leg, because what I wanted to do was turn like this and go back. It just feels safer somehow. It's like you're just giving yourself a bit of space and a bit of time to make up your mind, which is exactly why we do the opposite, because we want everything to be really immediate. But let's just try now, just pushing with this leg and just forcing yourself round into a back foot posture. And then pull with the leg again to pull yourself back to the front, and then push with this leg to drive yourself back, and then pull with the leg, push with the leg. So this, of course, is the second warm-up exercise. Or repulse monkeys. And we'll just back to riding forwards. Now let's do the first two warm-up exercises. It should clarify it. Feel the back leg. The back leg is active when I'm doing this first one. The back leg is active, but the energy is actually coming from the front leg. So this is the thing of Tai Chi. The active leg is the one that's using force, if you like. And the other leg is the one that's potentially energetic. Feel the toes. So as I straighten this leg and it becomes more and more a back leg, the toes lengthen and stretch, and then they clench to pull me back. Action in the feet. and then switch into the second one. And it is a real switch. It's a real change. So now I'm going into the back foot. And now let's try the breathing again, but really localizing it. Dan Chen, Min Meng. So my neutral, relaxed position is just straight and vertical. So if I tighten the muscles in the Dan Chen, it pushes the Min Meng back. So the Min Meng stretches open. So they're both under tension. One is a compressed tension, one is a stretched tension. And then I relax that and it brings me back to the middle, to vertical. And now I tense around the Ming Men to pull my elbows back, and that stretches here. And then I relax and come back to the middle. Pulling in the Dan Chen, stretching the Ming Men, relaxing back to the middle, and then tightening the Ming Men, stretching the Dan Chen, and back to the middle. Feel the work. Work is the alternation of tension and relaxation. So I tense to come out of equilibrium, come out of the center, and then I relax to come back, to spring back. And then again, I tense to come out of the center, and then I relax to spring back. Just really feel it in these 2 points. One tightens and the other one stretches open. And the other one tightens and its partner stretches out. Feel them like 2 ring muscles. When you tighten one, it opens the one the other side, but they're both tense. The one that's open wants to close. The one that's really compressed wants to spring a little bit more open. And then you just relax back to the front. And now I really tighten, I pucker the Ming Men, and that stretches this open. And then I just relax it. Feel the difference between the attention and the intention. The attention is just the part of your mind that's just there, aware and observant. But it's not doing anything. It's not affecting the situation. And your intention is the part of your mind that's making it happen. So that requires spirit. The intention requires spirit. In a way, the intention is spirit. So I intend that Min Meng squeezing, but my attention, if you like, is watching what's happening here. And then I relax. Now I squeeze the belly, and my attention is watching the back. So again, it's active and passive. It's like the intention is like the active mind, and the attention is like the passive mind. Good. And then back to riding horse. You just want to feel this place. This is where the movement comes from. This is where the action starts. Feel the spine, feel the part of the spine dropping down from this point. So a vertebra, and then the sacrum, and then the tail. And feel the spine rising up from the Ming Men. Bring the mind to the sacrum, the triangle of the sacrum. So my spine is settling onto my sacrum. So the down of the spine, gravity, in other words, the flow down through me, which is the earth basically operating upon me. It flows down into the sacrum. And then the sacrum, it does two things really. It directs that flow down into my tail. So it's like the arrowhead, the point of the arrow is the end of my tail. So this energy is being squeezed into this point, making that end of the tail potentially very active. So there's a lot of potential there, a lot of energy and potential. So it can sort of move around. I can direct my tail simply by making slight adjustments in my hips. But also the spine coming down into the sacrum is split into two, the two sides of the sacrum. send the weight out. They redistribute the flow down into the two legs. So really, the sacrum splits the flow down of gravity into three, into one leg, the other leg, and the tail in the middle. So we just want to feel that. Of course, the tail is very, very different than the legs. Tail is much more active. And now let's try some with 1 foot forwards. So first, just going backwards and forwards, the full and empty. Clearly distinguish full and empty. So this is my attention, if you like. I'm concentrating on my attention. I'm watching one leg fill and the other leg empty. The leg that's filling is filling from the ground. The one that's emptying is emptying down into the ground. Feel the leg operating in the same way that it was when we were turning. To bring myself forwards, this one bends. And to continue that forwards, this one straightens. And then this one bends to start me moving back. And then to complete that move back, this leg has to straighten. Otherwise, I won't get everything into the leg. And now this one bends. And this one straightens. And then the back leg bends. And the front leg straightens. The empty leg, the one that's more empty than the other one, is the active leg. Yeah, so as soon as I get past the 50-50 point, this leg becomes active, straightening. And now the weight's here, and then this leg tightens and pulls, and then once I get more than 50-50, this leg straightens. And now just into this exercise. Now using the arm to direct the cross energy. So remember, I'm not simply dropping into this leg. This is what we find, is that it's not enough to simply sink into the filling leg in order to get energy out of it. I have to drive myself into it. You know, John said once to me, he says, basically, Tai Chi, you're just turning yourself into a pile driver. So I'm sinking into the leg, but also this leg, the straightening of this leg is driving me down into it. And that sort of forces it to respond energetically. So by driving myself into this leg, it squeezes the energy up into the opposite hand. And you feel it especially here. If I'm coming forwards to push, the force for this push, there'll always be force in a push unless you've got no contact. It's coming from my back leg. So my back leg is straightening, and that is pushing this hand forwards forcefully. But it's also driving me into this leg. So if I can just relax the front leg enough so that it can behave like a spring, so in other words, have some give in it, then the force from this leg driving me into the front leg will spring back up as energy. So this hand has force from the back foot, but energy from the front foot. This is what we want to feel. It's easy coming into the front foot. It's a bit more tricky to get your mind around it when you're going into the back foot. In a sense, there's less force here because this leg is pushing me backwards. So in a way, this is like all energy. I want to feel the importance of the empty leg. The empty leg is responsible for moving me, but it's also responsible for driving me even more into the full leg. Even more than 100% of my weight in the leg, because I've got my weight in this foot, but also I'm pushing myself even more. So you've got tension here coming into this hand. And then this has to remain really relaxed across here to allow the energy to flow up. This is what's difficult. Part of me has to be quite tense and fierce, and part of me has to be really relaxed and loose. I just want to become aware of these things. I want to see it, attend to it. And then I can intend it with a purity. awareness is everything. That Rupert Spira, he had a lovely phrase, you must fall in love with awareness. And awareness is a journey because it's something you just go deeper and deeper into the more you work. And that's, the sense when the Buddhists say everything is mind. Mind is all there is. That's what they mean, really, is awareness. Now let's try some with the other foot forwards. Full and empty first, so bringing the ground up, bringing the ground up. Feeling the activity of the empty leg. This is straightening to drive me into this leg, and then it bends, and this leg straightens. I have to feel the leg not simply as a spring that I sink into and then bounce out of. I want to feel the empty leg like a piece of elastic stretching and then pulling back. They're both working at the same time. So this stretch and this bounce happen at the same time. But I want to make sure they're equally as strong as each other. Otherwise, there isn't a proper play between the legs. This leg bends, starts me moving forwards. This leg straightens, throwing the hand forwards, but driving me into this leg even more. I have to really stay relaxed across the sacrum so that this can flow up into the upper body and not just travel into the opposite leg. And then the same thing here. I'm pulling with the back leg, and then I straighten the front leg to drive myself down into the back leg completely. So let's just hold it here a sec. So the front foot posture. So what we want to feel is the force, if you like, the push of the hand coming from the back leg. My back leg is straightening, and that's bringing my hand forwards. But then I want to switch my mind, just connect with the sole of this foot and just feel that path through the body, the energetic path from the front leg. So the force sort of maintains the structure, and then the energy flows through that structure. So this is basically pressing. This is what we were practicing when we were doing the pressing exercise. We just had this hand in there. I'm not sure why. So I want to really feel this leg. I don't want to have to use this leg forcefully. So I use this leg to push into the person, but I use this leg to bring energy into them. And then when we go back, it's the same thing. It's just a bit more difficult to feel the straightening of this leg becoming a push forwards. But it is. That's why, you know, when they're in the back leg, they really lean forwards like this and stick their bum back. So that just helps the push of the front leg translate against that direction into this hand. But again, I want to really stay relaxed across the sacrum so that I can feel the energy flowing from my back leg into my front hand as my front leg is really driving me back into it. And then forwards. Okay. Now let's try a bit of this one. This one is really important. The more I do it, the more I realize how important it is. We normally use the legs to move us around. So I'm using my legs to bring me up from the ground and then propel me forwards. Now, what's difficult about this exercise is that we're not using the legs to bring ourselves up from the ground. We're using our legs to bring us down towards the ground. So we have to be careful that we're not doing this. We're not pushing ourselves up with the leg. But as I bring the heel off the ground, it's sinking me. So there's a feeling that as I'm doing this exercise, it's sucking me underneath the feet. I want to become really interested in that little piece of ground underneath my feet, because that's my lowest energy center. So remember when we started doing this, when we lifted the heel, it tended to make us tip forwards and fall. So that's the opposite of that. So as I bring the heel up, it's actually drawing me down. So imagine I brought the heel up so much that the knee actually came up. So if I'm pulling the knee up like this, it's pulling my lower back under. It's flattening out the lordosis in my lumbar spine. And that's what's happening all the time in this exercise. It's pulling the bum under. It's rolling me like this, which is the way we want to move. We don't want to move like a ball that's rolling on the ground like this. That's head leading. What we want is knees leading. So my knee comes up, but the coming up of the knee actually draws me down behind. I want to feel the lifting of the knee, sucking my spine down like this. And that just means I get a feeling for this space beneath my belly. Space we're normally almost unaware of because there's not a lot of feeling in the legs because they're just being used as these workhorses all the time. This is hard work, but the legs become sort of elastic because they're not pushing me up all the time. They're pulling me down. They're like pieces of elastic that are stretching back. They're stretched and then they pull back. And now let's work a little bit with that. You know, it's just so difficult because as soon as we come back to normality, this is happening. You know, especially when you're trying to say something useful. It's completely the wrong use of the mind. So I want to feel myself being drawn down into the supporting leg so that the other one can come up and step. And then as I pull myself into that leg, it's sucking my tail down. And then this loosens, and then I pull myself into the back leg, and that's sucking my spine underneath so that this foot can rise up. So I come into the foot because that leg, that empty leg, is pulling me into it. It's pulling my body forwards, but the part that's moving first is the sacrum, is the part that my leg is attached to. So as I bend the leg, it's pulling at my sacrum, it's stretching it down, flattening out the back, and the spine oozes down with it. So I'm being pulled down. And then here, I'm being pulled down into the leg, into the ground beneath my foot. Pulling with the leg, and that takes the spine right down. Oh, ooh. So as I become better at concentrating, better at keeping my quiet mind on the job, my awareness deepens, and I just see more detail. I see what's really happening. As I pull with the leg, it's like it's sucking my spine down there. And then I follow that energy. It's what we want to feel. We just want to feel the spirit directing the energy. The intention directs the energy, and the energy drags the body along. Energy is the flow of intention. It's my mind. My mind sucks at the ground, and I get drawn down. Okay. Sink and relax. So in order to relax, I have to really trust. And that is the same as faith. And only then will this start to quieten down. The noisy mind that's talking to itself all the time is an indication of lack of faith. And let's bring it up. Just a little bit of this, just to bring me down. And just relax. Feel the spring of the legs. If someone wants to come up behind you and just press on your head a little bit downwards, then your legs would bend because they're not holding you still. They're in equilibrium. The spring of the legs is balanced by the pull of gravity. If one of them increases just a tiny bit, it will make you move. So when you have that sort of freedom in the system, then what wants to come out of it all the time is turns. You know, so we're made of two pieces, a left side and a right side. And we're not kangaroos, so we're not bounding around. We're loping. We're doing this. One side works and the other side sort of does the opposite. That's there all the time. And what that will produce is turns but also this tipping of the spine, this sort of snaky action in the spine. I want to feel that potentially rippling all the way up to the ceiling and potentially rippling all the way down through my long tail and into the ground.